Hello, my friends. Katie Day with the Move Me to Texas team here with another episode of the Real Advice podcast. I am thrilled for this week's episode and to welcome our guests to the show. They're realtors and co-team leaders in Washington. I'm really excited to dig into their processes and strategies that have propelled them to a top team in the state. Please join me in welcoming Cory and Jessica to the show. What's going on, guys?
Hey, happy Monday.
I love the sound effects. There are some people that have like soundboards. I just need Cory to hop on every show and give me some sound effects. I love it.
It's always good for a good sound effect.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, when you're not creating sound effects, tell me a little bit about y'all's background and how you got into real estate. Who started first?
Go ahead.
That would be me. I jumped in, almost 7 years ago now, after having background in sales, small business management. I was running a small franchise business with about 50 employees when my kids were really young, and that was not working well for my family, and kind of jumped into, I guess, the opposite realm of things and went into working for a local municipality, like 9 to 5 administrative, and that was mind-numbing. And decided to jump into real estate. And obviously the financial opportunities were a huge draw for me, but also just the flexibility that with a small family, I thought I could provide. So jumped in 2017.
Nice. That was when I went full time too. So real good year to get started in real estate. I like it. Cory, what about you?
So I wasn't too far behind Jess as far as the timeline goes, but I guess as far as just a quick background, I was in big box retail for a while, salaried employee, so working 95 hours a week, with no overtime benefits.
Yep, love it.
Still do that. In fact, even sometimes more. But I really wanted to take a bet on myself.
For sure.
I'm putting in the hours. I've got the work ethic. I'm doing all these things. Why, selfishly, I guess, why not make it a little bit more, for myself versus trying to benefit, somebody else. I really enjoyed what I did, but I think it was just time to kind of just make that transition. While I was doing big box, I had a couple rentals, did a few fix and flips, and did that before I got licensed. And I think that was ultimately the deciding factor of why I wanted to jump into it full time, was just my interaction with the agents that I had at the time and was working with, and I wanted to do something a little bit different, do something a little bit better. So,
well, and so I kind of want to. I had some thoughts written down, and so I'm just gonna kind of scrap that, and we're gonna hop around a little bit. And so, having experience, buying and selling and doing these things, you said you kind of wanted to do it differently, and on your website, y'all have a lot of different services, right? So if you go to meet with a seller, you have, hey, we can do A, B, C, D. Tell me a little bit about kind of how that came about as far as different options, I would say, for a seller client.
Yeah, that's something that, Jess and I really kind of started to leverage as we got early on into our career, and kind of, I guess, a little bit of experience on my side too, was when I worked with agents, I wasn't really given an option. And I guess being kind of naive and new, and I guess in what I was doing, it was more of like, hey, this is what's happening. Kind of a deal. And I think as, Jess kind of jumped in and I jumped in, and just our interaction with the clients that we've had, no two homes are the same, no two clients are the same. So there shouldn't be just a generic blanket package of what you need to do to sell a home.
This isn't a one size fits all process. Everybody's circumstance and really goals are so different. And so we treat every single client we work with, they're unique. Their circumstance is unique. What they're hoping to achieve is unique. And we have a proven process that we've designed to help obviously maximize that for them. But just approaching it with, again, it's not a one size fits all process, is something that we weigh really heavily.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. We actually have, basics that are, fundamentals and necessities that need to happen. But at the same time too, selling tends to be more operational and buying is aspirational. So there's really two completely different sides to those equations.
For sure, for sure. Well, and so one of the things that I'd seen was the listing enhancement process and some of the different services and things. And so is that kind of the like, hey, depending on your situation, these are the things that we'll coordinate or do, or how does that work like in practice?
Yeah, so essentially, when we talk about our listing enhancement process, we know that providing less services is what's going to help our sellers maximize their equity, and that's our goal.
Yeah.
Because that's their number one goal, is getting the most amount of money out of their home. We pre-inspect every single listing before we list it. That makes a huge difference when they hit the market. We are not going to walk around and take cell phone photos. We're going to pay a professional cleaner to come. The staging process is important. So while it might seem like a lot to some, these are the bare minimum that we go through when we list a home.
Yeah.
Well, and so, I mean, I know the markets have been different over the years and things like that. Some people shy away from like the pre-listing inspection, right? Just because sometimes, that opens up a little bit of a can of worms or something like that. How do you talk sellers through, why it's important to do that?
Yeah. I think, you could potentially open a can of worms, but wouldn't you rather open that can of worms before you hit the market instead of waiting until a buyer's got you off the market and then they find that can of worms and then you're in a position where you're now trying to deal with it? There's like maybe 1 to 2 circumstances where we don't pre-inspect, and that would be if, we've got an estate sale we're working with and we don't want to go down that road. But that's really the only situation where we wouldn't, and really just talking sellers through that, hey, a buyer's going to do an inspection on your home.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it turns into this back and forth, right? We want to know confidently what we're working with when we hit the market. You're going to feel better about that, because as a seller,
Sure.
probably the most stressful part of listing your home is you got a buyer and now you wait. What are they going to ask for? What are they going to want to negotiate? And if we've got the heads up on that sooner rather than later, and we've got the opportunity to maybe fix a leak that they didn't know about before we hit the market, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm in a much stronger negotiating position from the get-go instead of waiting until a buyer is in a stronger negotiating position later. And not to mention, if a buyer knows and they feel confident in what they're offering on because they've seen that inspection report, they're willing to pay more for it.
For sure. Are you still normally seeing buyers do their own inspection when they go under contract?
Yeah, I mean, it does happen time to time. But regardless if that happens or not, we know what they're going to find, and the seller fine. So they already have a heads up of what's coming. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, this was already in their inspection report, so I already knew about it. So again, it kind of tends to be not necessarily like, a 911 or, hey, this is a huge deal. I need you to go hire a licensed and bonded contractor to fix this, when all you need is a wrench and a screwdriver, right? So
some buyers for sure want to have an inspector that they're comfortable with come in and inspect the home, but that still leaves us in a position where we're not negotiating on things that we disclosed from the get-go. So more for comfort purposes, and that's totally fine.
Yeah. Well, and I find too that oftentimes when you get an inspection back, there are so many things, as Cory, you just said, like that are just could have been solved, with some paint and some caulk and, a screwdriver, right? But it's a 50-page report. And I feel like, a lot of times for buyers, they see that they're like, oh my goodness, this place is falling apart. And it's like new construction and 50-year-old homes all seem to have 50-page inspection reports. So
yeah, sure enough.
Never fails.
Okay, so switching gears a little bit, kind of into the, advice giving side of things. If I were brand new, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to me if I was just starting out?
Man, one piece of advice. I mean, I feel like I have a lot to give. It's hard for just one piece, but like, I would probably say the mentality aspect of it, of just starting off with an agent. I mean, I know there's some agents that go into the market and they have a huge sphere, or they have a huge following, or they're already, Insta famous, or, whatever the case may be. That's obviously going to make things happier, but 99% of agents that start don't really have a lot of that to leverage. So the mindset, in my opinion, is really going to be the biggest thing of just, it's going to be hard. It's going to require a lot of work. There's no instant fast track to being successful in this industry. It comes down to really doing the unsexy things that I like to call it. Like, everyone's like, hey, just sold a multi-million-dollar home. That's the cool stuff everyone gets to brag about. But what everyone doesn't see, or they don't know typically going into the industry, of the hours of 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. generating, your business, working on your digital, media presence, cold calling, getting hung up on, all this other stuff that, equates to, the end result of, selling homes and getting clients is really just the unsexy stuff that needs to be aware of, I guess, and just have that mindset of it's going to take a lot to get some things going.
And I would say surround yourself with the right people. Join a team, or get a mentor, just to have somebody who can help guide you through the things that maybe you don't know it's going to take. Agents, there's so many that go and get their license and then they have no idea what to do from there because they don't have anybody who's helping them figure it out. And we both from the get-go joined a team that provided us with a ton of training, a ton of insight and experience that we wouldn't have gained elsewhere.
Yeah.
So whether it's a team or just getting yourself a mentor, that would be the biggest piece of advice for anybody brand new starting out.
I love that. But I think sometimes it's a little bit more difficult in practice, right? Because especially in the world of social media, you see these teams and you're like, oh, they're crushing. And then we being more seasoned agents, like look up their production. And you're like, oh, they've sold 2 homes in the past 6 months, So like if I were an agent, like trying to find a team, what would be the things that you would say, like, check this, do this, dig a little bit deeper to understand what that team looks like and what, the day-to-day looks like? Because there are so many varying levels of what a team is these days.
Yeah, there really is. I would say, almost like what our clients do, to an extent of, talk to different brokerages, talk to different teams, and just really get an understanding of what that dynamic looks like. What's a little unique in our industry is, our personal lives and work lives tend to blend a little bit, especially on teams. Just the way the dynamic works most of the time. So having an understanding of what that team's dynamic looks like, having an understanding of what, the production of that team looks like, or the individual agents, or what the benefit is to joining that team. Really in my experience, when agents join a team, they want leads and leadership, and leverage. Those are really the 3 things that I see that really want, as a common feature to be looked at.
Well, and what's important to me in a team might be different than what's important to Cory in a team.
Yeah.
We had a good friend of mine decide to join our team, but I had her go and interview with the other large teams in our area. Just, hey, go see what else is out there. Make sure this is the right fit for you and what your goals are, because again, my goal might be to sell 10 homes a year, and that's where my comfort level is. And your goal might be to sell 50, 70 homes a year. And that team is probably going to look different depending on what your goals are.
So what happened after she interviewed at the other places?
Yes.
I figured you wouldn't tell the story if it didn't have a happy ending, but
No, and I think that again, just pouring into community and other agents, stats aren't everything. It's going to be about the right fit for you and your goals.
Yeah. Ultimately at the end of the day, our clients win, right? So, if we are providing the right things for our community, the right things for the agents on our team, the right things for the industry, at the end of the day, it's going to elevate the industry and it's going to make our clients more successful and have a better outcome for them at the end of the day, which is what it's all about. So.
For sure. What advice would you give to someone if they were getting ready to start their own team?
Hang on.
Yeah. What like looking back, right? Because there's so many different things. Like the team that you're today, the team that I am today, has evolved over time, right? Most of the evolution has been through making mistakes, right? But what are some things that you wish you would have known before y'all kicked this off?
I would probably say, just the flexibility, I guess that's what's needed. There's a lot of teams out there that are very much a one size fits all package. And it's like either you fit with the team or you don't. I think with, kind of what we have evolved into and kind of just overall learned is kind of what Jess mentioned before about what different agents need. And being able to flex a little bit to provide what those individual agents need.
As long as they're the right people. That's what it comes down to. is the right person, the right fit for your culture, for what you feel is going to be the right fit for your team overall. I think that's a big piece of it.
Yeah. I think just overall the flexibility piece is the biggest thing that I kind of, what I envisioned whenever we're kind of first starting a team is just kind of a box package, right? And someone either fit in the box and it was going to work or it wasn't. And I think just overall kind of just going through the evolution and seeing what is, because there's still amazing people and amazing agents out there, but they need kind of different things. So you can almost have to flex a little bit around what your focus is with that particular individual. So being able to be flexible to cater towards your individual agent's needs, I think was a big piece there.
Well, and on that note, I mean, you're going to hear from, we had mentors that showed us, hey, this is how we run our team, and this is what you need to do to run a successful team and to make sure that your business is successful, your agents are successful. And you can obviously pull from a lot of different areas, but if you're building your team, you've got to do what feels right for you. And somebody else's blueprint might not work exactly quite right for you. So feel free to tweak it to make it what you want and what's going to work best for you and your agents.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because it's like, I mean, in coaching programs or things like that, they're like, here's the framework, right? And it's always so interesting to see how people take that and kind of make it their own. So yeah, I mean, I feel like where our team is today is a combination of, 43 of my closest friends kind of thing, and the things that everyone's done that, have worked well for them or things that I've been told to avoid. So yeah.
Well, we're still, tweaking and growing depending on, it's constant evolution. You're never going to have it completely set towards like, okay, this is what it is, and now we're good to go. That's not a reality.
I mean, it's kind of, it has to be a living and breathing, thing, just like the market. The market changes all the time, and so does the industry. So we have to make sure that we are flexing and evolving with those industry changes. It's like the CEO of Nokia, said they did nothing wrong, but they went out of business, right? It's just they never changed, they never evolved with what the world was doing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think especially today, with everything that's going on in our world, right, in the real estate world, it's like you've got to continually see what you can do to improve and evolve and things like that. So I want to talk a little bit about like social media and things like that. I love the some of y'all's sold posts on like Instagram and Facebook and on social. Not only are you providing that proof of success piece, I love that it's not just like, hey, we sold this, hey, we're so great. You're telling a story of what happened with the clients and the things that they did, right, to get to where, it's either buying or selling a property. How has that evolved over time? Or like, what advice would you give to an agent as far as social media on things that have worked well for y'all?
Yeah. I mean, I would probably say, I guess the standard or the perception of social media that comes across is, hey, look at me, especially when you're a real estate agent, you're in the whole public figure, kind of a thing. When it has really nothing to do with you. You are a guide, on this individual's journey of home selling or home purchasing. And just kind of what we talked about before of like, there's no one size fits all package. If you're not sitting down with your client and understanding, the true whys and the desires and the absolute necessities that they need out of this outcome and, helping them with different options to achieve that, then you're really doing them, unjust. It's very much a, kind of social media is, we want to, highlight our clients and their success, not necessarily, ours, if that makes sense.
Well, I think you, like you said, telling the story and being authentically you is probably the biggest piece of advice like we give our agents when they're on social media. Don't try and be like this person over here. Don't be like me. Don't be like Cory. Be you, because that's who people want to work with. That's how you're going to attract the people that you're going to be a fantastic fit for. And by, sharing the client stories that you're working with, that's something that people can connect with. And just throwing up another just sold post, like that's great, but that's not the full story. So being authentic is huge.
Yeah, I'd completely agree. I actually, we were just talking today. I was talking to someone about social media and people putting out more and more content, trying to stay relevant and things like that. And we're like, it, the argument was being made in this conversation that as far as content goes, maybe less is more, and being like, who is my person and who is my target audience and what am I trying to accomplish here, and just focusing in on that. Because I think it's Brock Johnson, the Instagram guy, says that like if you go 99.9% of all of your posts are to your niche, like you'll explode on Instagram, kind of thing. And so we were kind of talking about that of what that would look like, in practice. So yeah, it's just interesting to see kind of the different direction that people take. But I think authenticity is definitely the most important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and we also, I mean, we have obviously our team page on Instagram and Facebook, but as far as our agents, we don't have them utilize like a professional page or anything like that. People want to see you, they want to work with you. So make sure that you're not just posting about work all the time, mix it up. People want to see your family. They want to see you outside of who you are when you're helping people buy and sell homes. And I think that also plays into the authenticity factor of it, but mixing it up and don't make it all about work.
Yeah, I think a big piece of it too is so much is highlighted from a success standpoint on social media. That don't be ashamed or don't be scared to post a struggle. It's not all rich and famous success and that kind of stuff. So posting and sharing some struggles or hard times or sometimes controversial issues is even better than posting the success at the end of the day. So
well, and waiting to post until you get something perfect, that's something I struggled with for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? Have to be perfect. You just need to get it out there. And it's never going to be like I would sit and probably film a reel for hours before. It's not that important. Just get it out there.
Yeah.
I feel like this is part advice and part you're speaking to yourself as you're like, just freaking put it out there. Okay.
Just do it.
So speaking a little bit on the mindset side of things, are you doing a 75 hard right now?
Not at the moment, no.
No? Okay.
We did one before last year, which we did we completed it.
Yeah. Started in August and ended in October, so we got that fair weather window perfectly.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
We actually, another local agent we ran into was like, well, you haven't done it in the winter? And we're like, no. He's like, that's kind of cheating. Like,
it's kind of, honestly, it's kind of soft, if we're going to throw a word on it.
Yeah.
So we started January 2nd, and we're going strong until we wound up with our entire household, COVID and strep all at the same time.
The double whammy.
like we're on a walk and Cory's like, Jess, you look drunk. Like I'm fighting a fever. We're like, this is no longer healthy.
Yeah. There's part mindset, and then you're like, I've just got to be a responsible adult now. Like,
yeah. Yes. Sure. My mom's like, please stop. Like,
yeah.
So we did. We tapped out. We've still been continuing with, honestly, we love our reading. We're doing working out, which is something that we do almost every day anyways, but the 75 hard, we decided maybe not like the best health-wise if you're fighting some illnesses. So
yeah, that's normally what stops people.
But mindset, the first time we did it was huge, and that was probably the hardest part, was just being in the right mindset to complete it. I'd never done anything like that before, and I think when I suggested it, you thought I was kidding or not.
I thought. I think
that's cute. No, I'm being serious.
It was a good challenge. It's something I would encourage anybody to do some type of some form of that, because it bleeds out into other areas. So if you're disciplined,
exactly.
It's going to only be on what you're focusing on 75 hard. That discipline, that mindset will bleed out into other areas of your life, your business, your relationships, and that's a huge piece of that.
Yep.
I think one of the huge things too with it is like, since you do have to have the 2 45-minute workouts and you need to consume a certain amount of water and like things like that, you have to find time for it. And so, I know for me, I wasn't sure, like, I already work out pretty much every day, right? Kind of thing. I drink a decent amount of water. I do these things, but it's like just increasing it by just a little bit was really a challenge, right? In ensuring that I was properly scheduling my day and my responsibilities and different stuff like that. So yeah.
is a whole lot more important when you're juggling that too, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So on switching gears a little bit on like the personal development front, or professional development, kind of whichever direction you want to take it. Are there any like podcasts or books or anything on that front that y'all like listen to or read or follow, or even people on like Instagram with shorts and things like that? Like, what are y'all consuming?
I mean, I would probably say for books, personal development books. If you're in the real estate industry and you haven't read, the MRE, that's definitely a must. Shift or Pivot, I think, was a fantastic one. The one Eric Hatch and Robbie T came out with, that was a good one as far as like business building and kind of like framework, how you mentioned before. There's so many different ways to consume content, and as long as it's the right content, I think that's the most important piece. What you're putting into your mind is the same thing as like what you'd put into your body. So like if you eat Cheetos and drink Mountain Dew all day long, you're probably not gonna feel the best or feel fantastic, right? So it's the same thing with your mind. Garbage in, garbage out kind of an aspect. But I think, when we first started doing 75 Hard, I personally, for me, I didn't really enjoy reading. I was kind of more the podcast or the audiobook kind of guy. And then I think as we evolved and went through 75 Hard, I kind of found a passion that I didn't know that I had for, sitting down and just reading a few pages a day kind of a thing. So I think that was pretty big.
Yeah, we've as a team read several books together. One of the biggest ones for me that I really enjoyed and have now read twice, once a year, was The Gap and the Gain. And that has been something that has helped, obviously, business, but personally, huge. Your mindset keeps coming up. It's so important. And being able to measure your success is something that I think a lot of people get wrong. And The Gap and the Gain was a great book that, again, read twice. And I think it's probably something that we'll continue to read and retouch on.
Always measure backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love the idea of like reading a book as a team, so we've done that a few times, and it's just a good thing to kind of like mix up the team meetings of like something else to talk about for a month or two, and kind of hear what other people's takeaways are. Cause like, I know for me, when I read a book that I've read before, I always take away something different because I'm in a different part of my life, different season or stage or whatever you want to call it. So I always love hearing what everyone thinks, of the section or the chapters or whatever we read.
Yeah, 1000%.
It's going to hit home differently for everybody.
For sure. All right. I'm going to hit you guys with one last question. Who wants to answer it first?
Just us.
Just us? Okay. Yeah, I like how you did that. Okay. So if it was your last meal on Earth, what would you be eating?
Pasta.
Love it. What kind?
Oh my God, there's so many good ones.
What's your like go-to? Like, this isn't like Olive Garden, all you can eat, you get everything you want. This is like, what's the bowl?
I'm making it at home.
All right, I love it.
I would say a nice Wagyu sirloin or filet.
All right.
Steak.
Bottle of red.
Yeah. Yep.
That's actually probably a really good meal. Like, big bowl of pasta, big steak. Like, that sounds like a pretty good meal combined.
I'm hungry now.
Yeah, it's probably close to lunchtime. So if someone doesn't follow y'all on social, where is the best place for them to connect with you on the social medias?
For me, I am personally more active on Facebook. That's be the quickest and easiest way. I'm also on Instagram, the real Cory Williams.
Williams Ave Real Estate is on Instagram, and then I am Jessica Williams Ave Dari on Instagram. We're both pretty active. Well, I'm more active on Instagram, but that's where you can find us.
Awesome. Good deal. Well, hey, I appreciate y'all's time today, and I look forward to hearing more success coming from y'all and hopefully seeing you in person sometime soon.
Yeah,
for
definitely.
sure.